Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Anson here, and today we're back with a brand new video. So, what my goal is in this video is to really get you guys started on how to, get started with making a Discord bot. We're not going to be doing any coding. I might show some examples, but really this whole guide is just really just me introducing to you guys, what Discord bots are, why you should make them, and really how to get started. And then, I do have videos on how to actually write the code to get your bot to do stuff. But the whole point of this video is to really just introduce you guys on really how to get started and what resources you need. Because a lot of times, people who make videos don't really, go over these things. They kind of just like make the videos, and people watch those videos, and they are kind of like, it's not that the people who make those videos are misleading them. It's the people who watch those videos think that, I can just learn everything that I need to learn from just one from I can't even speak, from this one video. I can learn everything that I need to do from this one video, and I don't need anything else. And a lot of times they fail because they just copy and paste code. They don't understand what they're doing. They run into an issue and they don't know how to fix it. Then they get frustrated. They feel like, oh my god, this didn't help me. They dislike the video. They blame the person who made the video, and no one wins, right? So my goal is to really just explain to you how to really approach. And in my opinion, I feel like this would be a good way to approach making Discord bots. And we're going to cover all of the, questions that you guys probably have. And, I'm going to go ahead and cover, points where you might feel frustrated and overwhelmed. But yeah, don't worry. So you guys are going to be in good hands. So anyways, let's go and get started. So what is a Discord bot? Okay. In simple terms, a Discord bot is just a chat bot that lives in your Discord server or multiple Discord servers, and you can use it to do a bunch of different things. You can have it, delete certain messages that contain vulgar languages, such as, you can create, your own chat filter. You can have it handle certain, reactions on messages. So whenever someone reacts to a message, you can give them a role, right? That's a role reaction bot. You can have your bot, assign roles to other users. You can have your bot do anything. You can even have your bot play music, do a bunch of things, right? That's what a Discord bot is. It's basically just an application, and that application interacts with the Discord platform, the Discord API, and their Discord gateway. Okay, those two things are the backbone to allowing our bot to perform these kind of operations, right? So, I don't want to go super deep into this whole explanation, but pretty much the Discord bot relies on the Discord API and the Discord gateway to do these, these tasks that we want it to do. Okay, and they are very, very helpful tasks many of the times. Okay, so why do we need Discord bots? Okay, there are probably over 1 million different Discord bots. Why do we need another one? Okay, well, let's talk about this. Why do we need Discord bots in general? Well, Discord bots improve server quality, right? When you have a Discord bot on your server, you can have it do pretty much all of the little tasks for you, so you don't have to manually sit there and do them. Let's say if you wanted to give a user a role whenever they join, instead of you just sitting on the server waiting for users to join and giving them a role immediately, your bot can detect when a user joins and then give them that role right away. So you don't have to do that, and even if you're offline, the bot will just give them the role. Okay, and automating these tasks makes the quality of your server much more better. It improves the quality of the server. And you can use Discord bots to do a bunch of other things too, such as if people raid your server, if they try to spam invite links, if they try to spam vulgar language, or just bad behavior, right? You can have your bot detect those kind of things, and then perform certain actions appropriate for those events, right? So if someone spams your server, you can mute them using the bot. If someone sends an invite link for another server, if they're advertising, right, you can have your bot detect that and then auto delete it. These are just some basic examples. Obviously, there are a bunch of other things that your bot can do. Okay, you just gotta be creative. Okay. All right, cool. So now that we know what a Discord bot is, now that you're probably convinced on, hey, let's make a Discord bot. The question is, how do we make a Discord bot? Okay, so in order to actually make a Discord bot, we need to actually communicate with the Discord API and gateway. Okay, now how do we do that? Don't worry, I'll get into that. The first step is we need to actually create an application on the developer portal. Okay, so before we even worry about anything else, let's actually do that real quick. So what you're going to do is you're going to go over to discordapp.com. Okay, whoops. You're going to go over to discordapp.com. You're going to make sure you have an account. If you don't have an account, well, you need to make sure you have an account. If you don't have an account, you won't be able to access the developer portal. Okay, so make sure you have an account, make sure you're logged in, go over to developers and click on developer portal. This will take you over to discordapp.com/developers/applications. And you're going to go ahead and just click on new application and just name this whatever you want. I'm going to name this, I don't know app. I'm not really good with names. But again, you can name it whatever you want. You can change it whenever you want. Okay, so every single application is going to have a unique client ID. Right, this is kind of like the client ID that we ourselves have, right? I have a client ID. Everyone has a client ID, including bots. Okay, this is your client secret. Don't share this with anyone. If someone does have it, or if you feel like someone has compromised your client secret, you can just always regenerate it. Okay, but don't worry so much about this. The next thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and just click on bots and just click add bot. So we're adding a bot to our application. Right, there's a bunch of different things you can do with your Discord application, but having a bot is just one of the things. Okay, and so your bot is going to have this token, and we need this token to actually log our bot in. Okay, so you can click to reveal it. Obviously, you don't want to give this to anyone as well, because if someone has this bot token, they can use that token to log in with your bot. And if your bot has permissions such as administrator, they can do really bad things to your server. So make sure you never share this token with anyone. And if at any point you feel like this token is shared with someone, like someone knows your token, just click on regenerate. Okay, and you'll get a brand new one. Okay, cool. So we've created an application. We've added a bot to our application. Now what we need to do is we need to actually authorize our bot. And to do this, we're going to have to visit this URL. I'll show you guys in just a sec. So it's going to look something like this. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is you want to go to discordapp.com/OAuth2/authorize and then $client_ID, okay, and then equals, and then you're going to have to paste in your client ID right over there. Okay, so I have it pasted over here, and then after that you want to do &scope = bot. So it's going to add our bot to a server, or it's going to bring us to this page, and it's going to ask us which server you want added to. You need to make sure that if you are authorizing this bot, you need to make sure you have managed server permission on the server that you want to. So otherwise it won't pop up. I'm going to add it to the test server, and you're going to see in just a second that the IDK bot is going to appear right over, where is it? Right over there. Okay, just join. Perfect. Cool, and that's how you make a bot. That's it. Obviously, our bot doesn't do anything, but that's how you make a bot. Okay, that's the first step, is making this application, and then getting your bot on the server. Okay, the other stuff, the programming stuff, we're not going to worry about that for now. I have videos on how to get started with that, so after you're done with this video, just go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, cool, and that's it. Okay, so a couple things that I want to mention is, now that we have our bot on our server, we need to do something called coding or programming to actually get our bot to do stuff. Okay, because right now our bot doesn't do anything. It's offline right now. It's not going to do anything. Okay, so in order to actually get our bot logged in order to get our bot to respond to messages, all these kind of things, we need to program the bot to do something. Okay, and by program I mean we need to make sure we understand how to code. We need to make sure we know how to program. You need to make sure you know a language and understand the fundamentals of it, and then get started with that. I know it might sound very scary, but trust me, it's not. And I'm going to explain all this stuff in the next following slides. Not teach you guys how to code, but I'm going to talk about ways to approach it. Okay, so one thing that I do want to mention is that in order to actually interact with the Discord API and Discord Gateway, because I keep mentioning these two things, right? The Discord API and the Discord Gateway, but I haven't really explained I don't really explain too much on what these two things are. But basically, they're just it's just a platform where we can communicate with those endpoints, communicate with those, with their technologies, and we can use the API and the gateway to interact with our bot, to have our bot do stuff on our server. Okay, that's just the gist of it, right? There's obviously, again, a more deeper explanation to it, but I'm not trying to make this scary for beginners. Okay, but in order to interact with the API, with the gateway, we can either manually, handle all of everything on ourselves, right? Because actually, if you wanted to really write your bot from scratch, you would use the Discord API, but you would have to manually, set up a connection to the gateway. You would have to manually make every single REST. You would have to basically make every single HTTP request to the REST API. And that's going to take a lot of time, right? Fortunately, there are these things called libraries, okay, which is just basically a collection of functionalities that all relate to each other. And that library pretty much does all of these hard things for us. So we don't have to worry about creating a WebSocket and connecting to the gateway. The library is going to do that for us. The only thing we need to do is just learn how to use the library. Okay, the reason why libraries are created is because it basically saves developers, like future developers, a lot of time to build applications. You can reuse the code later on, and all of the abstractions that you would have to worry about originally are taken away. So the only thing you need to worry about is just knowing how to use the methods that wrap those abstractions up. And I'll explain a little bit more, but if you're a beginner, you're probably not going to really fully understand the whole concept of libraries. But just think of it like just a tool that will help you build your application for you. Okay, so a couple of popular unofficial. I say unofficial because these libraries are created by community members. They were not created or maintained by the Discord developer team. Okay, they're created by just regular programmers like us. Okay, so there are many different libraries out there that exist. So to name a few, Discord.js, if you're programming a Discord bot using Node.js environment. There's Discord Py, so if you're a Python developer, you would use this library. There's a JDA, which is for Java. There's Discord.net, which is for C# or .NET developers. There's Discord for Clojure, Discord.jl for Julia, Nix is for Dart, and there's a whole bunch. And if you guys wanna check all of them out, you can go to the Discord API server. There's a whole bunch of different channels that you can visit. There's a whole bunch, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot more too. And if you're really that good, you can even write your own. Okay, just to let you guys know that. Okay. Cool. And another word of advice is you typically want to choose a library that's for the language that you know. So if you're a JavaScript developer, you don't want to pick Discord Py. You want to pick something like Discord.js. Okay, so that's just obviously that's pretty obvious. You want to use a library for a language that you know. If you wanted to use Discord Py, you would need to make sure you know Python. Okay, so before we even get into using these libraries, right, the very first thing that we need to actually know how to do is code. And if you don't know how to code, then now's the time to learn. Right? A lot of times people who watch tutorial videos, they even admit, yeah, I don't know how to code, but I'm just trying to make a Discord bot. It's kind of like it's like the same thing as trying to drive a car but not knowing how to drive a car in the first place, right? You can't just jump through hoops and expect to know how to do something without actually learning how to do it, right? If I just go into a car and just kind of guess and check, just push this button, steer the wheel, step on the gas pedal. If I just guess and check all the time, I'm probably going to crash. I'm probably going to get into a car accident, and it's not going to be pretty for me, right? And it's the same way with building a Discord bot. You can't just jump right into building a Discord bot without knowing how to code. You want to learn how to code first, and then you can start building these types of applications. Okay, a Discord bot again is just an application, just like any other applications that exist out there. Okay, so there you go. Now the question for a lot of people: how do I learn to code? that is a question that a lot of people struggle with, right? A lot of people don't know how to get started, and I can understand that. If you're a beginner, if you're just getting into this on your own, if you've never learned how to code before, I can understand that it could be very hard to really just get yourself set up. And so my advice for learning how to code is to just start somewhere. Okay, so first things first, just learn a language, right? There are hundreds, thousands even, of different programming languages out there. I mean, I wouldn't say thousands, but definitely hundreds of programming languages out there. There's a bunch. There's Java, there's JavaScript, there's Python, C#, C, C++, Swift if you want to be an iOS developer, or if you want to develop if you want to develop like iOS apps, Mac OS apps, iPad apps, etc. If you want to develop mobile apps, you can use there's a whole bunch of languages for mobile apps, but again, there's a whole bunch of different languages out there that exist. Go, Dart, what else? Clojure, Kotlin, Scala. There's a bunch. Okay, I can make a whole video on all the different languages out there. Okay, but the point is that you only need to learn one of them just to get started. Okay, you learn one language, but you don't. But you need to focus not just on the language, but also on the fundamentals of programming, right? The language is just the syntax part, right? And of course, languages also have their own different. They have their different syntax. They have their own exclusives and whatnot. But anything that you want to do can be achieved in any language, right? You can make a Discord bot in 20 different programming languages, right? There's no limitation. But it's just the question is, what language do I use? It doesn't matter. Use the language that you're good at. Okay, so just pick a language. Now, for me personally, if I were to tell someone, if they wanted to get started with programming, what language they should use, I would suggest, and this is just my opinion, I would suggest either Java or C. And the reason why I say that is because I came from a Java background, and I really enjoyed learning Java. But I feel like when it comes to if your main goal is to really just make a Discord bot, I would say JavaScript or Python, and I'll explain that in the next slide. But again, it doesn't matter which language you want to learn first. Just pick a language, and that's it. Okay, because what's more important is you understand the fundamentals of programming, such as variables, conditional statements, operators, loops, functions, methods, classes, things like that. Those are the most important things. Okay? Cool. So again, once you learn how to code, you can start diving into, building real-world applications like a Discord bot or a web server or whatever. Okay? And again, there's no specific language intended for building Discord bots. Any language can achieve the same thing. Certain languages might be easier, of course, and other languages might take a lot more lines of code to do one thing. Okay? And again, there are different libraries for different languages. You just gotta, do some Googling, do some research, or you just, go on the Discord API server and ask. Okay? Cool. All right. So again, just piggybacking off of what I was saying earlier, in my opinion, and again, this is just my opinion, if you're an absolute beginner and all you want to do is just learn to code just to make a Discord bot, I would say that going with either JavaScript or Python would not be a bad choice. Okay, even though in my opinion I feel like JavaScript itself isn't really the best language to learn as a beginner, I feel like learning JavaScript or Python would be great for making a Discord bot. The reason why I say that is because Discord.js and Discord Py, the two libraries for JavaScript and Python respectively, it's very easy to set up an environment that can build a Discord bot using those two languages. If you want to build a Discord bot in Node.js, right, you just make sure you have Node.js installed. You run a couple commands and you're good to go. Right? Same thing with Python. If you wanted to build a Discord bot in, let's say, Java, you would use the JDE library. You would have to make sure you have an IDE installed. I mean, you could use Visual Studio Code, but you would need to make sure you have an IDE installed, such as IntelliJ. And there's a whole bunch of different setups, and it's very opinionated, which means that the structure of your project needs to be a certain way every single time. Okay, and I'm not really a fan of that, but I mean, other people like it. But for a beginner, all that stuff is probably going to seem very scary to them. So that's why I say, Discord.js or Discord Py would be great libraries to use, meaning that you would have to learn either JavaScript or Python, because it's very easy to set them up, and it speeds up the whole process too. Okay, cool. So now that you've made it this far, let's actually talk about how we can actually set up our environment. Because again, assuming that you've never coded before, assuming you've never done this stuff before, I want to at least get you guys started with how to get everything set up. Okay, so we're gonna set up what's called a programming environment. Okay, and an environment, all that is just where us developers, we can create, we can write, we can build projects and execute code that we write. That's all it is. Okay, of course, every programming environment is very different. If you wanted to write JavaScript code on your desktop, you need to make sure you have a JavaScript runtime environment, aka Node.js, right? If you wanted to write Python code, you need to make sure you have a Python environment, meaning that you would need to make sure you have Python installed. If you wanted to write Java code, you would need to make sure you have the JDK installed. The list goes on, right? Different programming languages have their own environments. They need their own compilers, their interpreters, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to set up Node.js. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go over to nodejs.org. Okay, if you don't know what Node.js is, all Node.js is just a runtime environment for JavaScript, and what that means is that we can use Node.js to execute our JavaScript code. Sorry. Before Node.js existed, we were only able to execute code in the console. Code in the console in the browser, right? Which meant that we were only limited to writing JavaScript code that could only work on the client side. But since Node came out, we can actually use Node to execute JavaScript code on our desktop, and which means we can build even more powerful applications. Okay, so without Node, we won't be able to, write a Discord bot using Discord.js. So you want to make sure you go on nodejs.org, download the LTS version. You could download the current one. Doesn't really fully matter. The current one has all the latest features, but it's subject to changes all the time. So there might be some things that are buggy and experimental. But the LTS version is stable, and it stands for a long time support. Just download either one of them, doesn't really matter, and just save it to wherever you want. It's gonna let's see, I'm gonna save it to my desktop. This should be fine. Okay, so it's a very quick download. You can open it up. Okay, let's just see. Okay, cool. So I'm on Windows, obviously. So the wizard is very easy, and it's going to tell you where it's going to be installed. And over here, it's just going to tell you that it's going to install Node.js runtime. It's going to install something called npm, which stands for Node Package Manager. We're not going to worry so much about that right now. But all that is it just allows us to install modules like Discord.js that we can use locally on our machine. Basically, modules are like external code that either we write or other people write, and we can export them. We can reuse them whenever you want. It's going to install the online documentation shortcuts, and it's also going to add Node and npm to our path environment, so we can actually run the command Node wherever we want. So before and after, so after you install Node, you're going to have two commands that you can execute: the Node command and the npm command. Okay, so click next. I don't know what this is, to be honest with you, so I'm just going to ignore it, but you can read through it. And then just click install. I'm not going to install it because I have it already. But again, it's a very easy installation. You shouldn't really get any issues. And it's a very fast installation process too. Okay, so yeah, I don't know why I have this open. Okay, so I'm going to open up what's called my CMD just to show you guys. So if I type Node, you're going to see that it actually opens up what's called a REPL. So I can actually type JavaScript code and execute it just like that. I'm going to exit though. And if I just type node-v, it's going to tell me the version. I'm on 10.13.0. I haven't updated yet. npm-v, that's Node Package Manager, version 6.4.1. Obviously, my versions are going to be a lot different than yours. Okay, so, but once you've installed it, just go on your command prompt if you're on Windows, or go on your terminal if you're on Mac, or the terminal on Linux as well, and just type these commands, and you'll see that it should execute. Okay, cool. All right. Now, once you've got Node.js installed, the next thing you want to do is install a text editor. Personally, for me, I recommend Visual Studio Code because I use it all the time and I absolutely love it. I've never had any issues with it. It's a very easy installation. Just go to this website, just download for whatever operating system you're using. It's cross-platform, so it's freaking awesome. Okay. Obviously, some people might be like, oh, why can't I just use Notepad or TextEdit or Microsoft Word, right? I mean, there's nothing stopping you from doing it, but these editors are there are a lot of features that don't exist on these native editors that exist on a rich text editor like Visual Studio Code or Atom, right? Editors like Visual Studio Code provide a lot of different features such as language support, syntax highlighting, so it will highlight keywords and different your variable names, for example, and all of those things, so you can actually distinguish very easily what's different, what each line of code is. It provides linting errors, so let's say if you have some kind of syntax error or some kind of semantic error, it'll pinpoint that. It'll also do hints, auto imports, IntelliSense, a bunch of stuff. Okay, we're not going to get into the whole thing because it's not a course on text editors, but I think you get the idea. Okay, so yeah, just download Visual Studio Code. I'll show you what it looks like. It looks just like this. Hopefully, yeah, it should open it up. I have some code over here. It's very simple. It's not too hard to use Visual Studio Code. It's very easy. If you're a tech savvy person, you could probably figure out how to use it, very quickly. But even if you're not, it's still very user friendly. So if you've used things like Microsoft Word or even just like the Windows Explorer, you'll know that file. You can create a new file over here, type stuff in here. Again, it's just like your ordinary text editor. It's just like Notepad, but it just has a bunch of other features to it, right? You can open a folder, you can open up a workspace, you can save your file. And a whole bunch of things that normally you can't do, right? So I can open up recent files that I've opened, autosave. You can even integrate Spotify too, and there's a whole bunch of extensions that you can install. So right now, this is not the default look of Visual Studio Code. I actually have a theme installed. So just to show you a cool preview, this will probably make you guys be like, oh my god, let me actually install Visual Studio Code. I can change themes. Like I can install third-party extensions that were made by other people, and I can change up the themes. I can add other stuff too. It's very cool, and I like it a lot. Okay, just going through all the themes that I have installed. Okay, and I think it's pretty cool. It's a great program, no complaints. And there's also other editors like Atom, Sublime Text, and they have similar features as well. Okay, cool. All right, so now that you have your text editor installed, the next thing that you want to familiarize yourself with is it's called a terminal, or command prompt if you're on Windows. On Mac it's called the terminal as well, and same thing with Linux, right? But we're just going to call it a terminal because it's just easier. I don't want to really I don't really want to keep having to say cmd/terminal. Just know when I say terminal for the Windows users, what I really mean is the command prompt, or just shell. Okay, so you saw me using it earlier. I'm going to type it up. Terminal. So if you don't have the Windows terminal installed on Windows, just use command prompt. I think by default Windows comes with PowerShell. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll just use the CMD for now, command prompt. Okay, so you're going to be using this application a lot. You're going to be running commands in here. This is the application that we're going to use to actually execute the code that we write. Okay. So pretty much, again, a terminal is just an application that allows us to interact with our entire operating system, and every operating system has a built-in program like a terminal, and Windows has the command prompt, Mac OS and Linux have the terminal. Okay, and it's necessary to learn how to use a terminal, because when you're going into a language where like a scripting language like Python or JavaScript. Because these languages are not compiled, they're interpreted. You typically use, just use a program, like a command to, execute the code, and it'll interpret everything and it'll output it for you. If you're writing, code in like an IDE, like IntelliJ, you can just click a button and it'll run everything for you. I mean, I'm pretty sure there are plugins that can do that for you in Visual Studio Code, but again, it's very important to know how to use these commands. Okay, so definitely learn how to use certain commands. The only ones that we're going to focus on is just the node command, which is what we're going to be using to execute code. Okay, and that's pretty much it. And also, Visual Studio Code has a built-in terminal as well. So it'll actually utilize the terminal that you have for your default OS. So on Windows, for me, it's just the PowerShell /cmd. You can just see right over here. It opens it up in the folder that I have currently opened up, which is the welcome bot folder. Okay, so that's pretty cool. All right, so let's say, for example, I guess I'll show you guys as well how to set up Python. I'm not going to run through the whole installation process because it's just very easy. But just go to python.org and just click on downloads and just download. I would say probably download the latest version or maybe the second latest version. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter because certain dependencies might require a specific version of Python. Because again, there's a bunch of different versions, but you definitely want to make sure you're using Python 3. Okay, because I think at some point this year, I don't know if they've already stopped supporting Python 2, but I know at some point this year, from what I've heard, and it's been confirmed that they're going to stop support on Python 2, which is an older version of Python. Okay, so just download one of these versions. I'm going to download 3.8.1, and we're going to click on Windows Executable Installer, and we're just going to save it. And we're just going to run it. And it's just like the node one. Over here, what you want to do is you want to add Python 3.8 to path so that way you can actually run the Python command from your terminal. And then just click install now. And this is going to install a couple things. It's going to install idle, which is a program. It's a REPL that allows you to execute Python code immediately. And I'll show you how to use that. It's going to install pip, which is the Python's package manager. It's basically like npm but for Python. Okay, you use pip to install modules on the pip registry. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So just click on install now, or you can do a custom installation, doesn't matter. And again, it's very easy. It takes, I don't know how long it takes, it's going to take less than a minute at least. So I'm just going to cancel it. Very easy. Okay, and it's going to add it to your path too. So once you have Python installed, I can do something like Python -- version. I'm on version 3.6.7 because I haven't, bothered updating it. But you can also do Python, and it'll open up a shell for you, so I can execute code. So I can say print hello world. I can do y = 5, y + 7. Just write some basic code. You can also verify the installation just by typing idle, and you're gonna see this application. And this idle app is just kind of like the same thing that I have over here in my shell. You can do the same thing. Y = 5. It's just executing code. This is called a REPL, which stands for read, evaluate, print, and loop. So you're basically reading in, or the program is going to read in input. Okay, so since this is an expression, it's going to evaluate it now. So y is equal to 4. Okay, then it's going to print it. Well, it didn't really print anything, but then it's going to loop. So looping basically means it's going to continue staying in the buffer, taking in expressions, commands, whatnot, statements, and then you can keep on going. Obviously, you don't want to write all your code inside a REPL. It's good for just testing quick things, like testing if a certain function would work. But you always want to make sure you're writing your code in the correct file and then executing it. Okay, so that's how you would set up your Python environment. We're not going to get into Java because Java is a whole different story. But I think that's the end of our slides. And I guess to finish this, I'm going to just quickly show you guys how to just write some quick code real quick. Why not? So I'm going to open up the Windows terminal. This is just a preview. It's still in development mode. But I'm going to go into my documents. So the cd command is going to change the directory in my shell. So when you open up your shell, or when you open up your terminal, it's going to start out with the default directory. And a directory is basically like the folder that we're in, right? So currently we're in the Anson folder. Okay, I want to go into my documents, so I type cd documents. Okay, and it really depends on how your file system is set up. Okay, and I'm going to create a directory using the mkdir command, and I'm just going to say test demo. You can name this whatever you want. Okay, and I'm going to cd into test demo since that's in the documents folder. just like that. And if I type ls, that is going to list all of the files in the directory. You can see we don't have anything in our directory because it's empty. So if you have Visual Studio Code installed, what it will do is it'll actually add the code. It will actually add it to the path, so you can use the command code anywhere you want and type dot, and this will open up code in this current directory. So you see how it opened up test-demo with Visual Studio Code. So I don't have to do file open folder. I could have done that and just went through my Explorer and then found the correct folder I want to open. But this is just a command that saves us a lot of time. I just do code dot and I'll open up the current folder. So let me just create a simple .js file. So I'll just say test.js. Okay, since we're writing JavaScript code, we want to make sure we're writing it in a file that ends with .js. And we're just going to do a simple console log hello world. So this is a JavaScript source file. And if I want to execute it, we need to use the node command. So I can just do node. So now if I do ls, you're going to see test.js is there. So to execute the contents of test.js, we do node test.js. Okay, and it's going to say hello world. And if I want to create another file, let's say test2.js, and we'll just do console.log 5 plus 5. We'll do ls. You can see there's two files, test2.js 10. Okay, so that's for Node.js. You can also use the built-in terminal in Visual Studio Code. It's the same thing, just like that. Okay, cool. So let's create a Python file. Let's just say app.py. Okay, and let's just do a simple print hello world from Python y equal 4 print y, and let's do, instead of using node now, since we're running a Python file, we're going to do Python app.py. You might need to actually use Python 3 command instead, but my command isn't set up for Python 3. For Python 3, my command is just Python. Okay, but again, the way, depending on how you install it, depending on how you have the path set up, it's either Python or Python 3. Okay, so Python app.py, there you go. Okay, so I really hope that this whole video helped you guys out and kind of just explain, how to really get started with making a Discord bot. Because again, I know a lot of people always are just wondering, how do I get started? I don't know how to code. What do I do? And I really hope that this whole video clarified everything. And again, if you have any other questions, feel free to just ask it down below in the comments, or just join my Discord server and just ask your questions directly on the server. I have a bunch of different channels where you can ask questions. So if you need, help with, Discord bots or just programming in general, you can visit one of the appropriate channels over here. If you just have a general question such as how do I get started with programming, what languages should I use, etc., you can ask it in general discussion. And I really feel like, we covered a lot in this whole video. So again, I'll leave a link down to the resource that you need down below in the description. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I will see you guys in my next future videos. Peace.